Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to Coach's Corner. We are live. What's up?
Oh, there you go, Matt. She freehands it with the clippers and the comb. Yeah. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, there she is. Hi, Nina. Yeah, I was so
Dude, I
lost there
don't
for a
know. I
second.
just like sit there. She's like, yeah, that needs to be trimmed. I'm like, all right. She says it, but then you get it. Me, I have no fucking clue. I'm like, just please don't shave it off.
What's Mandinka?
Yeah, what the fuck's Mandinka?
Mandinka.
It's dangerous. That's what it means.
Yeah.
It's true.
Can you guys
Oh,
You
speak,
guys
it's a
speak
language.
can you guys speak Mandinka?
No, I cannot. No, I cannot.
I don't know. I can't either.
I used to be fluent in Mandinka, but I lost the yeah, totally thinking that up. No idea what we're talking about.
All right, who's
What-
going first? I have two questions.
Never mind.
All right, shoot, Marina.
Go for it, Maria.
All right, I'll start with this one since you guys can't answer. Sweaty hair, ... What shampoo / conditioner is good for frequent washes? Curly hair products you like? I like We Dad. Done.
Me too.
Like the Tresemme. No, I have no idea.
Fuck
Yeah,
that.
ooh la la.
Even though your hair's gonna
So
fall
Sam's
out.
got all the nice stuff. Sam does have all the nice stuff. So
All right, going, guys. Mandinka language says
It's
is
his
a
tribe from Kunta Kinte in Gambia.
yeah, Northern Guinea. The
Go fuck yourself, Riley.
what was the question?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Curly hair products for more frequent. I mean, just my favorite
Curly?
curly hair products.
Tim, what do you use on your ass hair? You told me. He's like, I don't want to answer
Tough.
now.
Whatever Christine buys as far as soap is concerned. So
You put soap in your ass?
yeah, you don't
Yeah, but that
fucking
would
soap
hurt
your
that
ass?
in your ass. Well, I do wash my
Not
ass,
in your
but
ass,
like
but your ass crack.
Yeah, in my ass crack. I'm not shoving a fucking my
Of course.
soapy finger up my asshole in the middle of the shower, but I'm definitely soaping my ass crack for sure.
Yeah, what the fuck?
So, I mean, is that not normal? Wait a second. I thought, who are we laughing at? Are we laughing at me or are we laughing at Marina? Because
don't
Marina
know.
clearly has a lot of.
I wash my butt crack.
Butthole. What?
I wash my butt crack.
Apparently
but
not.
you
It was clearly a foreign concept to
Marina's
you.
just
I
out
feel
here
bad for Matt.
screaming at Tim. Like, what do you do? Stick a bar of soap in your ass? Like,
Yeah, as if nobody ever taught you how to clean yourself.
That's a little much.
Oh my god, Matt's over here
Dude.
dying.
dude,
Text
we're
your mom
five.
after
We're
this
5 minutes in, and we've peaked. Like this is all we're gonna
Oh my god, I expect this to be a reel on Instagram tomorrow.
Oh god.
oh, that was good. Does anybody know who this guy is with the Mandinka language?
No, he wants us to come
I'm
join
right
him
here.
though. I think he's recruiting people for his cult. So who's got Matt? You said you got a lot of good questions. Why don't you throw one out? I only have 5 questions.
wow.
Oh
god.
all right. So this is more of a question probably for you guys because I'm still new to the game here. But what's the most competitors you've had do one show, and what show was it?
Yeah, this is Steve's. This is Steve's
He likes
question.
to make his hair go gray and his stick soap in his butthole afterwards to cleanse himself.
I have 14 last year at Big Cat, 13 the year prior, and then 12 the year prior to that.
That shit's crazy.
I think the most we ever had, Marina, was what, 9?
Which is
9
still
at, yeah,
we both
9 at PA
can
Muscle.
ask
Yeah. I
okay.
think 9.
Real quick, does anybody know who this guy is? Because I'm just kicking him out.
No.
Okay, he's out. Removed his ass from the live video. Like that's ridiculous. Stop.
You guys have had 9. What show was that?
We did PA Muscle. We had 9. And I think the show before that too was Muscle Beach, where we had 8. If
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, 7 or 8, something like that.
Actually, no, I think one more, right?
Mm,
Not
cool.
one less.
I don't know, to be honest.
Didn't
with you.
Rocco do that one?
Oh yeah, you're right. So maybe it was 10. I don't know. It was
Something
something
like
like
that.
that, though. It
Something
was
like
around
that.
those numbers, between like 7 and 10 for both of those shows.
More
Mhm.
men or
Pretty
Pretty
evenly split,
even.
actually. Yeah, I think if let's say we had 8, it was, I mean 9, it was maybe one other female in favor of the females, and then 4 for men or something like that. You know what I mean? But it's pretty evenly split.
Mm-hmm.
and me and Steve were actually talking about this morning because at least the last 2 years I've been there with him, right? It's relatively even split, but each year it's kind of more women. Um, just interesting, right? Because a lot of them are also new competitors, so it's just kind of cool to see. Um, everybody getting into it. But for me, I've only had one person do a show, but I have 3 people doing Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, I think between Steve and I now, because I think I've recruited a couple for Big Cat. We'll probably have close. How many people you have supposedly going into Big Cat at this point?
12
Potentially, I
to
should.
12 to 14.
So hopefully, we'll see what happens as the year goes on, but hopefully we get the numbers up a little bit on our end for Big Cat, and we come like between the two teams, like close to 20 athletes. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
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 Because we'll all be
But-
there too.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, without a doubt, it'll be fun. So
It'll be a
but
party.
the one thing I would say is it's fucking stressful, especially when you have multiple people in one division or one class, right? It gets stressful, but at the same time, it is kind of cool having people. So you're basically running back and forth. You know what I mean? Where you're like backstage and then you're running back to the front to watch somebody. And then you're backstage and you're running back to the front to watch somebody. And it's like that kind of a show day, in my opinion, is like, I don't know how I rate that. It's stressful, but it's also because there's so much to be done there. It's almost like I think I'd prefer that over watching everybody go, and then I have 1 or 2 people like a bikini competitor and a bodybuilder.
Yeah, no, I
right. And
agree.
then it's like you have that entire time in between where you're not doing shit.
Yeah,
You
it
know what
goes
I
by
mean?
faster too.
Yeah.
When we had Matt when do Big Cat and he won, we were up like all night just rice, right? 500 grams of rice.
Dude, yeah. Because that was the first time you peaked me, bro. So we just couldn't fill up. That was ridiculous. That was the most food I've ever fucking eaten.
Dude, that was absurd. But then what was it? A month later for Easterns, it was a completely different thing.
Dude,
Night and day. I don't.
Yeah,
it was
dude,
like
I barely had
completely
to eat
night and
anything.
day thing. I kept you
because
nice
you
and full.
you basically repeated me that entire like 6 weeks between because I was in such
Yep.
good shape for Big Cat.
Yep.
That was really fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. What do you got, Steve?
Bodybuilding related questions or like what are we doing here?
Whatever you got.
I don't got any ass washing questions, but I'm sure we'll get some next week now. Are hot dogs a good bulking food? Only if you deep throat them like Tim.
Yes.
Oh my god.
How do you deal with clients who clearly are lying in their check-ins?
Did I get this one? Did we just talk about this? Who did I talk about?
We did
with?
this last
I feel like I
week.
just. Oh, is that what it was?
Somebody asked me.
Yeah, I mean, I
Call 'em
usually,
out.
no, that's where I got it from. I just did the clips, and there's literally that's why this is so reminiscent. I literally did the clips this morning from last week's podcast, and this is one of the clips that we
Mm.
got where I'm talking about confrontation and like
Oh
I'll
yeah,
actually
yeah.
confront somebody.
Somebody asked me this like 2 hours ago.
Yeah, like I said, real quick, just a quick synopsis of what I said there. It's like it's not like it's changed in a week, right? But it's just one of those things for me where it's like I'm not here for one person's payment at the end of the month. You know what I mean? $250 to $300 a month doesn't do me any good. I want to turn that person into a transformation that yields 10 more inquiries and 10 more new clients. And now, if I'm making $3,000 a month, now I can actually get somewhere in life. You know what I mean? So for me, it's not about just accepting somebody's payment and letting them kind of go about their process of making excuses and lying. At a certain point in the process, we're going to have a confrontation, not aggressive, not mean, not like in any way, shape, or form kind of unproductive. We want it to be a productive confrontation. We can walk away from it saying, hey, listen, I'm ready to move on with a newer level or a higher level of commitment, dedication, etc. Or I wasn't prepared for this. This isn't working for me. Maybe I need to find somebody else, or maybe I'm not ready for this. Either way, it puts me in a position where I'm not just taking somebody's monthly payment and not have them, kind of committed to the process.
Yep, I agree.
It just needs to be addressed, period. You'll probably know how your client reacts to certain things you say to them or how you so like client.
Yep.
Bit more gentle,
Mhm.
you know.
100%.
All right. Who's next?
Clen dosing start to finish. Like, where would you start somebody and where would you typically finish, male and female? And then follow-ups to that question is, do you taper it up? Do you start and stop like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off? These were two different people's questions that I kind of put together. One was asking me, do you taper up a Clen dosage? Do you start and stop 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 days on, 2 days off? And then the other one was Clen dosing. Where do you start? Where do you
So
finish?
the question I got was, is tapering Clen up and down correct? So
Was that
Wait.
by our girl Blaze?
it was by a girl, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's the same one.
Same,
But
it sounds the same.
yeah. I don't know where who wants to go with that? Who wants to start?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess especially for females, I'll start at like 20 micrograms because again, you don't know how somebody is going to react, right? And then I'll taper them up. I've never had a female go over 60, and that was like only for a couple weeks. But usually they're around like 40, I'd say to 60. He said taper up when the twitches decrease. For guys, I think like I've never gone over 80 to max. It would be like 100. Like with Matt, I think we got you what, like the 80? Not even.
It was the most.
Yeah,
we ever
80
did
was the
for like
most,
a couple
yeah.
weeks.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks. So I think when everything else is in place, right? Again, it's like, if what's 100 going to do that if that 80 is not doing, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the other thing is like it's always a risk versus reward with this shit, right?
Yep.
And odds are the people listening to this are probably regional level competitors, some national level competitors, right? Why do you even want to push the envelope like at that level, right? Because you are going to get to the next level eventually, and then you're going to have to push something. And Clen might not be the answer, right? But
Right.
if you're knocking on the door and the judges keep telling you need to get that next level condition, and you've tried all the other variables, upped everything else, maybe you want to try to push the Clen. Like if you're already pushing it, what do you do next, right?
Fucking diet harder.
Yeah, I mean, conditioning is the easiest thing for you to control in prep. It's not, you can't go slap on 5 pounds of muscle in prep, right? So
Mhm.
the odds are you don't need more than 80 micrograms of Clen at those levels, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd say I'm a little bit different. I usually I would say it's very contextual in terms of like, when am I bringing in Clen? Do
Well,
I have a
that's
guy that's basically like, peeled all the way through and we haven't really had to touch muscle lipolytics, and then, like 4 weeks out, whatever it might be, 4 or 6 weeks out, I want to start to maybe get more aggressive with the refeeding, bring a little bit of a tighter look, but at the same time, like bring that level of fullness that we want. I might start somebody off at fucking 60 micrograms, 70 micrograms.
Yeah, I think
and
at
fucking
that
ride
point,
through.
it's okay. And then always too, I think I would always tell somebody, just let me know how you're feeling, right? Because if like your heart's fucking palpitating to the point where like you already have anxiety and it's getting worse. Like for me, I won't even fucking touch Clen. I don't care if it's 10 milligrams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would say at that point in prep, most people are so dead. And again, if you have that
Oh, yeah.
conditioning level where this is even going to be, something that we would consider for an individual, they're probably so dead and walking with cement boots on that even 70 micrograms of Clen,
yeah.
they're going to be like, yeah, I feel it. And then 3 days later, they'd be like, I don't feel it anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I would also say that in most cases, especially with women or people who don't have any experience or smaller individuals in general, I'm starting at 10 micrograms. I don't even go up
Yeah.
to 20. We literally, like, Marina's done it plenty of times. And I think we start every time around 10 micrograms.
No.
Right? Depending on
Not recently. We stopped.
Well, that's
we
because
start
the
at
dosage we
20.
got- That's because the tablets we got are 40 microgram tablets as opposed to liquid in the past we've used where we could dose it at 10 micrograms. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
when
we
have that
wouldn't even
where
my
it's 100
liquid was
micrograms-
0.1 of an ml was always 20. But like at least for me, like like I don't have I have a good tolerance there. Like we've gone up to 60. I'm like, I don't feel anything.
Yeah, but and that's the other side of it too. So even if I start at 10 micrograms with somebody and I taper them up over a period of time, right? The reality is, even for a female, I'll go up to 80, 90, 100 micrograms,
Yeah.
depending on what needs to be done. Because at the end of the day, for me, it's about
Yeah, we've definitely gotten up there.
Yeah,
I
where
just don't
are
remember.
we at and what is the tolerance at that point? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we also know that there's going to be some down regulation there in terms of the effectiveness of that blend over a period of time as well. So it's like on one side, we could look at it and say like, hey, what's 100 micrograms going to do that 80's not? But then on the other side, if I have somebody that's 4 weeks out and we are sitting at 80 micrograms and I'm still trying to push for conditioning, right? What is 90 micrograms going to do that 80 micrograms didn't?
Well, at
it's going
that
to be
point, yeah.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit more of an efficacious dosage in terms of their individual tolerance level to
Right.
it. But the only other thing I'll say on this too, when it comes to dosing and tapering up, is I don't just go based off of the way somebody feels. So just because somebody stops twitching or they stop getting that racing feeling or
Mhm.
whatever, I'm like, dude, that doesn't mean the product's not working. You know what I
No,
mean?
I
Just
agree.
because
Yeah.
you tolerate
Yeah.
to that level. So I might put somebody on 10 micrograms to start and leave them there for 4, 5, 6 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then taper it up to 20 and leave them there for another 4 weeks and then taper up to 30. To me, any lipolytic that we use is an opportunity, just like food and cardio is an opportunity to drive additional fat loss, right? So it's a variable that I can use, but I'm using it in conjunction with those other variables. And
Right.
I'm using one here, I'm using one there, I'm going to use one here. That way I'm not just throwing a whole bunch of different shit at one time, right? And just maxing all those variables out at once. I'm using one at a time to try to elicit a specific outcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's like even like you said, everything is a tool, right? The fat burners, whether it's the cleanse, the over the counter stuff, cardio, even training output and volume, right? When you're tapering it up and down. So I think it's important. A lot of people realize too, like a good coach is going to know when to add the tools in, take tools away, add something else in, right? One at a time, things like that. So
What about, do you guys ever do anything as far as like, back in the day, we were always told like 2 days on, 2 days off, or 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Do you guys do anything like that?
with clan,
No,
no.
Yeah. Have you ever?
probably back in the day.
I
I
don't.
Back in
know
the day,
some
it was,
people
like,
that still do.
Yeah, I think some people still do. Yeah, because again, for so long it was standard. I never believed in that shit ever.
No,
Like literally,
never.
I could show you guys emails from like
Wait a minute.
2013.
You said 2 days on clean and 2 days off?
No, like or
Yeah, so
even
they'd be like-
2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or whatever.
Yeah, either one, where they would tell you like 2 days on of Clen and then 2 days on Benadryl to be able to clean out. the
Wait,
receptors,
I never
or
heard of that. Clean out
2
the
weeks
bed.
on.
Yeah,
2
I
weeks
heard of
off.
that
Yeah,
before. No,
yeah, yeah.
Never
Or
heard of
the
that.
ketamine. Ketamine was another one to help
Ketamine,
clean
yeah.
out the receptors. Yeah,
Ketamine.
but yeah,
Just
but
casually popping ketamine, dude.
yeah, but I've never done. Wait, was it ketamine or did I just make that up?
It was.
It's definitely not ketamine, dude. People just in a K-hole and prep.
Yeah,
I
what?
don't think what am I thinking of? I'm thinking something else.
I don't know. The Benadryl,
Uh,
I remember iron by that, but fuck that.
fuck. Either way, the bottom line is, yeah, there's always those standards back in the day, but I that was never something I'm like, dude, why would we go? Like, I always felt like when we did 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, in my experience with it, it was like I would lose for 2 weeks, and then the next 2 weeks, it's like I'd be stagnant, and they put it back in, and I would lose for 2 weeks, and the next 2 weeks I'd be stagnant. Right. And somebody said something about Broncaid.
Mhm.
For me, when I started that, it was literally ephedrine was still a thing when I was told to do that originally. Right. So I would use the Clen for 2 weeks, and then something like back in the day, we had Hydroxycut was one. There was Xenadrin was probably the most popular one that I would use for 2 weeks. And even that was nowhere near the same thing as the Clen, where my weight would stay more stagnant or the rate of loss would significantly drop for those 2 weeks. And then I would go back to the Clen, and it's like, man, it didn't really like suffice to the point where it's like, if I just stay on the Clen, I'm getting a better overall effect over that same time frame. Why am I cutting this out?
Mhm.
The only time I would do it is if I have to start somebody way out. So if we're like 30 weeks out from prep and I want to initiate something right out of the gate, I'll drop in that lipolytic, keep food really high to be able to drive that fat loss cascade. And then I would pull it when we're like, whatever, let's say 20 weeks out. And then we have 10 weeks clean of that Clen. And then 10 weeks out, I might put it back in to be able to elicit further fat loss. You know what I mean? So I might do that, but I'm never doing the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
Popping in here with something to go.
The Broncaid and caffeine combo, though, just so I think Vanessa Rose put it. That's also a very good combo. I use that as a secondary fat loss tool all the time. That's actually usually where I'll start people. And then
somebody last year, one of the girls, the woman I had, the big cat, we were doing the 2 weeks of Clen and then 2 weeks of the Broncaid.
Yeah.
With
Broncaid's
the cat,
no joke.
it was Broncaid, Yohimbine, and caffeine.
Yeah, that'll get the job done.
Yeah, we were doing 2 weeks of each. I was doing 2 weeks of Clen. She was at started her at 20, then we went to at 16 weeks out, at 10 weeks out, I put her to 40 from what I remember. And then at 6 weeks out to the show was 60, but it was every 2 weeks we were alternating the ECA and the Broncaid.
Yeah,
Well,
the original
Shreddable.
Shreddable. The original
Shreddable's good,
Shreddable
too.
was crazy.
Oh, that
I
shit
actually
was
thought-
like crack, dude.
Yeah. I actually thought that Shreddable was like stronger than a low dosage of Clen.
So
No
Honestly, that
way.
Shreddable was no joke,
Johnny
man.
told me to try it, right? Instead of the Clen.
It was Johnny
So
that
this
put
was
me
when I
on
was
the
still
shreddable too.
working in schools. I remember I was sitting there, and
Just
the
dripping
first day I
sweat.
took it, it was probably 11 a.m. I got done cardio at 6 a.m. And I just remember going down, and my eyelashes and my eyes, I blinked, and just sweat was pouring off of my head like I was in the shower. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? And then like I was freezing. I was like cold sweating.
Yeah, yeah.
Cold
That was all
sweats.
Yohimbi. Yeah, that stuff was no joke.
No, it was nuts, dude. Why did they change it? I'm assuming there's probably cocaine in it or something.
What was that last
Sorry,
burger
my
on the
daughter was
market?
just calling.
Um, it was the last one with the Fedra that they had out before it was like
Oh,
Yeah.
Oxy Elite.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was it,
Oxy
dude.
Elite Pro. Yeah,
shit
that was another
crazy
one.
too.
That
Dude.
shit would kill my appetite though, to the
Oh,
point where
yeah.
like I literally, even in prep, like there was a certain point early on in prep where I could not take Oxy Elite Pro. Otherwise, like my appetite was so bad, I wouldn't be able to eat like just a fucking normal thing of chicken and rice. Like it was just like I couldn't stomach anything.
In
I
prep?
worked at GNC when
Yeah.
it
That's
was
crazy.
Yeah, me too.
out. I worked at GNC when it was out, and we had to keep it like locked up, and people would come in and buy it by like the case. It was crazy.
Yeah. And they'd be taking like 5 a day when the dosage was like 2. They're like,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
understand
man,
why I
people
can't
were
sleep
insane.
at night.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Miguel,
All right.
I'll get Matt to write that up for you.
You don't want my calf plan, dude.
Just look at his garage. Just-
Yeah, come over. We go.
he's got a beard circuit. I got the beard circuit. He's got the calf circuit there.
All
All right, who's got the next question?
I got one here. Hardest part of off season and best part of the off season.
Eating is both. Eating is the best and the worst.
I would say there's no best part about eating whatsoever at a certain point.
I love eating
Cheesesteaks.
cheesesteaks.
Yeah.
What's the
Cheesesteaks,
worst?
if
I
you
don't
can
know if
fucking
there
stomach
is a
them.
bad part about off season,
I always stomach my cheesesteaks. Too.
except for you guys for eating. But like for me, I don't. I love off season.
You like to eat all that fucking food?
I don't eat all that fucking food.
Yeah, Marina's never had
what's
a
the
proper
highest your
reverse
food's
diet, so she's never had a really high amount of food.
Literally,
off
I've
season.
never had really high food. I think the highest I've gotten is like 300 grams of carbs, like 70 grams of fat, moderate protein. Like
Well, you've been over 300 grams
150.
of carbs. Literally, your high day during this last push was 325 grams of carbs.
yeah, but it's nothing. It's light work.
And then what's when you're pushing her, then what's her base diet? Like 250, 220?
Well, see, that's the thing. And this is where I would say for anybody in the off season, like your off season highs are really going to be indicative of what your composition is. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if you have a rough start to prep and you put on too much body fat from the very beginning, that's usually something that we're going to have to deal with for months and months into a prep. So the reality is your food's only going to get as high as we can keep it to where we're not exacerbating that issue and causing too much fat gain to where muscle development becomes a problem. You know what I mean? The more fat
Right,
tissue
of
we
course.
have, the more of those nutrients have to be partitioned over to that tissue, right?
Of
So
course.
it's only going to make it hard. So for Marina and where we've been with the off seasons, it's really been a thing where it's like, you know, maybe her base diet is like 250 grams of carbs. You know what I mean?
And then
it's
you're
like
just
we're
giving her
sticking- and
a small spike up to 325.
maybe a high day here and there. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had our last off season, right? It was an extended off season, 2 years. We got cleaned up really nice, right? And then we did have that stretch where like your regular base diet was 300 grams of carbs during our last push.
Yeah,
before
that was
prep.
like the only time for like maybe 2 weeks where I was like, I didn't eat all my food. And I was like,
Yeah, where she was like struggling with even 300 grams of carbs a day. So it's one of those things. where
No,
you see that
no,
a
it was
lot with women.
400, Tim. You gave me like 2 days of 400, and I was like,
You just said you never ate over 300 grams of carbs.
no,
Whatever.
it was, yeah, but that was 2 days. It was 2 days. I can't even count that.
Yeah, the bottom line is I think for most women, especially of certain sizes, right? Like it's going to be hard to get up there with food unless you're having a good off season all the way through. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know, hey, let's touch 300 grams of carbs. Just like for Steve and Matt and I, like we didn't just start eating 900 grams of carbs, right? Like we started somewhere around like 400 grams of carbs, and that was really hard for us. And then, you know, our next push up, we got to 500 grams of carbs, and that was really hard for us. And then along the way, we started doing, now it's like 600, 700 grams of carbs might be more normal for us during a push. But the reality is when we first touched those numbers, they were hard to sustain.
Oh, fuck
And then
yeah.
we learned how to, that was just became norm. You know what I mean? So it's
I
like the
couldn't
more you
even
get into it.
imagine. I couldn't even
Marissa,
imagine eating less than like 500 carbs right now.
Exactly. Our
We gotta
client,
be
our client,
starving.
Me too.
we have a girl,
Me too.
Marissa, who will hopefully be ready for Big Cat. She's one where over the course of a 2-year off season, we were just talking about this a couple check-ins ago. Her initial, high days were 300 training days, were 300 grams of carbs, right? And it was like so hard for her to hit that 300 grams. Every time I would log in, I'd look and she'd be at like 270, 260, 250. I'm like, dude, you got to max this out. Right. And then we would go into a cleanup phase. Obviously, we generate that hunger and that sensitivity. And then I could put her right back at 300 grams of carbs. She's nailing it like this.
Right.
Then I can push her up to 350. We got to do another cleanup phase,
Right.
generate more hunger. Now she eats 400 grams of carbs at 120 pounds like it's nothing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
She nails it every single day over and over. But again, it took her a whole off season, a whole true off season
Yeah.
of staying lean, staying in
You
good
know,
shape to be able to get to that.
You
To get
mentioned
there.
that, Tim. That's what I did with my client Gabby, who Marina is posing. She's doing Big Cat. So when she came to me, it was like she had like no appetite. So we dieted pretty hard, and I pushed her pretty hard for like the first 8 weeks, and I got an appetite response, and her carbs might have gotten down to like 80, 90, right? And her cardio got up to like I think 40 minutes. And then I started giving her high days on her glutes because she's on like a training rotation split. And then I started to feed her lower body days like 250 carbs, and it was a little too much. So I brought her high days down to 200. She was nailing it down. And then I slowly started to convert the high days to the base days. You know what I mean? And then
Exactly,
she
yeah.
was
Mhm.
nailing 200 carbs down. And then after like, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks of that, I dropped her carbs in half, cleaned her out for 4 weeks. And then I got high days in that were like 300. And now she's consistently eating like 300 carbs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, and
easy.
she's holding really good composition.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so I told her straight up, like, you'll be eating a good amount. So just to experiment now before we start prep, I threw in 2 high days now in the span of her 10-day training rotation of like 375 carbs, and she's nailing it down. But part of those carbs are like a sushi free meal because she loves sushi. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So she gets like four rolls on both of those days, and that makes up like, 30% of those carbs. So it's not like she doesn't feel like she's shoving it,
Shoving it down.
down her
Yeah.
throat. Like it's no more, so it's worked.
As
works
we're
well.
talking, I would say for me, probably the hardest part of the off season, and I mean this sincerely, is probably the patience that's required. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you really don't, especially when you have a metabolism that's really, adaptive and you have to really push the food. Like it's not, you don't, during a contest prep, you get to see it visually.
Yep.
A lot more effectively. You get to see it on the scale, like that's that tangible number
Yep.
a lot more effectively. You know what I mean? But when it comes to an off season, it's like, a good off season is like fucking 2 years. You know what I mean? And within that time frame, like your scale weight specifically is going to be a number where you're looking at it over and over and over again, and it's like the same fucking number. And it's like it gets in your head where it's like, it's almost like I can't judge myself based off of scale weight within an off season. I have to judge myself based off of scale weight from off seasons previous
Mhm.
to where it's like, okay, now I'm back up to 220, right? Or 230 or whatever the number is. It's like, but I've been here before, you know what I mean? It's like, and now I'm stagnant at this number, but it's more so like, what does this number look like this off season relative to previous off seasons? And am I that much better at this number now than I have been before? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just one of those things for me where it's that mental game of like,
Yeah.
where like, yeah, I don't know. It's just time. Time, I think, is the hardest part of that equation for me. It's like we all love to train, we all love to bodybuild, but at the same time, like we're in it to gain results. You know what I mean? We're in it to be better. You know what I mean? And not being able to see that come to fruition a little bit faster in an off season, it's tough sometimes because that's such a long game. Right. And it's like you're slowly fighting for inches at that point. And you're turning over those rocks to give you 1% benefit here, 1% benefit there, instead of turning over a rock that gives you 10% benefit, like you can in prep with putting Inclen. It's like, boom, 2 weeks later, I'm down 5 pounds.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas in an off season, you're probably not going to be in that position, especially if you're a little bit more experienced and a little bit more aged as far as your training experience and shit. So where it's like, you're not going to have that 5-pound jump in many cases. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even really think about the patience part of it, and that's definitely hard. And being in the middle of a 2-year off season myself, thinking about it's definitely one of the hardest factors. Probably to me, I think the food is still the hardest factor.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I've gotten up to a point where at the highest my food was like
Yeah.
900 carb, like 360 protein, like 100 plus fat, and like relative to other classic pros, I'm small. Like what more could I possibly fucking eat? You know what
You
I mean?
can't.
Time.
So to think about like that, the food, it's the time. Like, dude, just that, like that's where the patience piece. Like, ask me in 5 months what I hate more, the eating or the patience. I'm probably gonna be like, yeah, the fucking patience. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it's so much goddamn food.
Yep.
But to go back to not to be all negative about the off season, the positive is the strength and progress in the gym is definitely
What's up,
really
EJ?
fun. Hey EJ. Also, EJ asked me the other week. He didn't pop in, so I didn't answer it. What my pro debut is gonna be? I'm gonna do New York next year.
Nice. All right, we got another question.
Yeah. Marina, did you have any?
I do have one, but Katie asked. I'm gonna wait until she pops in.
All right, you want to go, Steve? I only got like 4 left, I think. So
Go ahead. I got 3. So go ahead.
Opinion, and I know this is Blaze. She's in here again. Opinion on sauna use during prep. Why remove it and when to remove it, if so.
What was it? Sauna use?
Sauna
Mhm.
use, yeah.
I mean, if you need to make weight, right? Like, I think could be a very good tool. The last time
I don't know about.
like,
I'm sorry,
no, I
guys.
said the last time I had to make light heavy, Johnny had me in that bitch, and that thing's fucking sucked.
Hey, look, I don't know any of the science behind the sauna, right? Like I know there's plenty of stuff about that, but just speaking on my own experience, I actually did like to do the sauna during prep,
Yep.
probably more so like just mentally.
Yep.
I'd like to do it after I was like done with my cardio or whatever, my training.
Yep.
And I don't know, you just feel good. You look good after, and I'm a big believer in the mind, the body following where the mind goes, right? And if I feel good about how I look, I'm just gonna keep doing it, right?
Yep.
That being said, when to pull it, that's a good question. I don't remember what I did. I mean, I might have used it like a couple of days out,
Yeah, I think it was the
fucking had it
week.
in the
It
whole
was the
time. I
week
was
of,
sick.
bro. I think you were in there like Wednesday. Remember when you sent me that video of the most muscular?
Oh, yeah,
You were that was like 2 days out,
yeah,
3 days out.
yeah.
Yeah. That's the only time that I would say, like, I would say use it if it's part of like you feeling better, part of you feeling more like as a recovery modality, if you would, you know what I mean? Whether that's mental, whether that's physical to a certain extent, right? We know sauna can have some benefit along those lines. I like it post workout to kind of slow people down and get them back to a baseline heart rate and kind of put them in a good position to be able to start that recovery process. But I would also say it's one of those things where when you go overboard from a physique perspective, you're looking at things that start to you're driving, a tougher environment for me to be able to figure things out in terms of that peaking. You know what I mean? Because and I know obviously you guys used it together, so it's definitely doable. It's just one of those things where for me, we're starting to fuck with the electrolytes, we're starting to fuck with
Mhm.
fluid balance, we're starting to fuck with a look a little bit more so, right? And unless I need to use the sauna to make weight, which is something I have yet to had to do.
Well, Tim, I just keep in mind real quick. I mean, cut you off with Matt though too. We were trying to keep him at a certain weight because he had to make
Mhm.
weight. So obviously, like if because he was obviously telling me everything he's doing, of course. But
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
if I was like,
calculate as a coach,
yeah, if I was like, that's going to be detrimental, I would have been like, dude, let's just cut the
course.
sauna out. And he would have obviously been like, all right, Steve, no problem. But like,
Mhm.
I knew that was only keeping him at that like 202, 203 mark while we were trying to
obviously
keep.
it never worked past you. Obviously it never worked against you guys. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right, right.
All I'm saying is for me.
Yeah, no, I know what
especially,
you're
like,
saying too. You're absolutely
yeah,
right.
it might be harder. And plus, you guys have that kind of relationship too, where you guys like, like you said, you knew everything he was doing down to the T. Where it's like
Yeah.
for me, if I'm having somebody check in a couple of times a week, it's
Right,
kind of
right.
like, okay, what days did you do the sauna? What days didn't you
Right,
do the
right.
sauna? What did you look like? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it's just to me, it's another variable that, to be honest with you, I just don't like. So I'm gonna pull it if I have somebody doing sauna. I'm gonna pull it at about 4 weeks out. Once we start to test that peaking strategy, put
Right.
more food back in, and trying to keep a more consistent look across the week,
Of course.
that's where I'm going to pull that for sure. Like I
We
said,
we
to me,
communicated. We communicated so much. I remember when you had me pull the jerking off out of the program because I just couldn't stay
Yeah,
full
I was
on
like,
my left arm.
yeah,
So-
his forearm kept
so
flattening
what
out.
Only twice a day.
I
Oh my
emailed him
God.
back and I'm like, bro, your right arm looks like it's 18 inches. Your left looks like it's 20 and a half. What's going on? He's like, Steve, I don't know. Brazzers was free this week. It was on sale.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I love you so much, buddy. I'm gonna send you Gorilla Glue, and I want you to glue your hands to your side.
That's too much. I'm dead.
Oh,
Glue your hand to your
yeah,
side.
yeah. No more.
Oh my God. Do you ever that reminds you ever see This Is the End?
I
Yeah,
think so.
You remember
we watched that recently.
dude, you remember when he comes out and he's like, yo, who's using my magazine? Oh my, do you remember that with Danny McBride and James Franco?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
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 Dude, oh
yeah.
my God, it just reminded me of that. That shit was so funny. Oh my God, no more Brazzers. That's right, EJ. Tell Matt, no more Brazzers. Oh my
Um,
God. I got a question here that just popped up. Is 17
for it.
too young to compete? What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
I
you
want
have to be
try
18.
compete in bikini, and I want to know how competitive is if I
You
went when
can't
I
you
turned
can't compete
17.
unless you're
You
18.
can't.
It's like
Yeah,
a rule.
I was just about to say I don't think it's too young. I did when I was 17,
But
but you can't.
what about IMBF, OCB, like them? Like,
I think it's
uh,
18 across the board now, dude.
is it? Oh, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think
Wait,
for
since
legality purposes.
Since when?
Last
Last
year.
year?
Yeah, they changed
Oh,
it
Year?
last
okay.
year.
I was gonna say I didn't think that.
Yeah,
That's
crazy.
I don't think it's too young. But I don't think it's bad that there's a age rule.
Let's put it this way: if you're 17,
You know
start to
why,
be a
right?
bodybuilder now.
Yeah.
Start to be a bodybuilder now, and then you compete when you're 18, and you're going to be far better off than somebody that's 18 deciding to compete when they're
Exactly.
18. You know what I mean? Like, start your process now.
This
Start the growth
makes
phase.
this makes me
Start
think
all the
of
lifestyle stuff.
This makes me think of
man.
Lexi Klinger, who she goes to Iron. I've known her since she's been going there since I've been going there. And I met her when she was 14. She got a coach at 14, has been training her ass off since she's been 14, has found a new coach, like she's living the lifestyle, and her physique, now she's what, 17, maybe like just turned 17. And her physique is better, like I honestly better than mine. Like it is insane how much she's been able to do from the age of 14 to 17, and she still hasn't stepped on stage.
Well, it's like my client Riley, the fucking kid, like reached out to me, like when he was like 110 pounds, I got him up to like 180, and the kid, like the amount of messages that you get, like, why you got this kid on all these drugs? And I'm like, the kid just has really good genetics. He just trains hard and he eats all his meals. The kid's 16, like, you know what I mean? It's not out of the question if somebody's capitalizing on genetics. Like, you don't need fucking drugs. Like, you know what I mean?
You guys know who Ariel Kadar is?
No. The
Yeah,
fucking
she's like one of the
Marina guy.
top fitness competitors. She's one of the top fitness competitors in the world right now, right? Top 3 fitness
Just
competitor in the
won,
world. Yeah.
Right.
And she went pro at 17 years old. So, and that was 2009. So
Yeah.
it wasn't that long ago. But again, I think 17 years old is a good age to be able
Is
to
there
immerse
an
yourself
ideal
with the process,
age
as long as you have a good head
for a
on your
female to
shoulders.
compete? I don't think there's an ideal age. I think like obviously if you want to get into it and you're 18 and you're with a coach who feels confident, you know, that you guys have had enough time together where they are comfortable enough to get you on stage, I think it's really any age, but I think at 18, if that's something you want to get into, obviously I'd have a coach for probably a good year before. So you go through various phases, make sure blood work's good, hormones, all that.
Yeah, Jenny's well within age. Actually, she's going for her first competition right now. I would say,
Nice.
like Steve said, there's no ideal age there. I would just say, like, the ideal time is when you are of a sound mind, you know what I mean? And you're
Oh,
mature
that's
enough to be able to make certain decisions. You have a job where you're well, secure within that job in terms of you being able to, place your priorities in different places. You know what I mean? Because that's what competing becomes, as Jenny well knows at this point, is it takes, a real level of priority that most people just don't comprehend until they've been in that process and they're trying to drive that result. It is very like demanding. What's that mean? Open the door.
Dude, you guys don't know that meme video?
Yeah, I know. I
Oh,
know what she's talking
yeah.
about.
It's like this freaking fracked out guy up against somebody's ring camera, and he's like, "Open
Open
your
the door.
door,
Yeah.
open your door."
Open the door.
That might have been the funniest thing she ever said, and I didn't get it.
Open the door.
It's such a funny video.
All right.
Go ahead, Steve. Do you have an actual question you want to
Oh,
pop in there?
hello.
Or
Oh, sorry, I had a visitor knocking at my door.
She said open the door.
look at those
Open the
cheeks.
door. Yeah, her top teeth are coming in.
Oh,
All
a
right.
little stinky bush.
We're gonna have a
tush.
brother or sister. Oh,
She's going right for it. Matt, you got another one you want to drop?
Sure.
Yeah. So we've got this one in the
Sure.
past, but it came up again. How do you balance, bodybuilding with your job, with the kids, with day-to-day life, all that stuff?
You mean how do I
Scheduling, time
balance this
blocking.
one? Yes.
So what?
Time blocking.
Time blocking.
Mm-hmm.
What?
What about you, Matt?
So yeah, basically what Marina said, just you gotta prioritize everything, right? What is the most important thing? Like what is your role in that family, right? Make sure you prioritize what it is that is you have to do that you're responsible for in your role, right? For me, like I'm the provider for my family. I work, my wife doesn't. So I have to make sure that I'm doing my job effectively because if I'm not, I get fired. What the fuck are we gonna do, right? Then it's prioritize being dad and husband, then it's prioritize bodybuilding, right? Um, and because of things like prioritization, I don't miss a beat on any of those things. Of course, sometimes one might need to take priority over the other, right? But that's the main thing. Understand like what are the most important things you need to do throughout the day and eliminate the rest of the bullshit.
Yep. Prioritize.
Yeah, I would say just focus. For me, it's focusing on that task explicitly when I'm there. And obviously, there's going to be things that bleed over, like when the baby wants to sit on my lap while I'm doing an Instagram live. Those two things are going to happen at the same time. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Or whatever that might be, and however that might look. That there things are going to bleed over, like they are right now for Steve, right?
Yeah.
Like that happens, But at the same time, it's like, hey, I have work to do. I'm going to make sure that I get that work done within a certain time frame. And I guess maybe that's time blocking. It's just the way that I'm doing it in my head is maybe a little bit different because I don't have a specific it's just I need to be able to pick up the baby from school. Then I have this I have to do. And it's like giving attention to that one thing exclusively when I'm doing it. And I'm not trying to juggle multiple different things at once so I can be efficient at that one thing, get that done, and then move on to the next thing. So that there's a period of time where I am Coach Tim, there's a period of time where I am Dad Tim, there's a period of time where I am significant other Tim, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You're always dad to me, Tim.
Don't forget Tim.
And don't you forget it either.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be a good boy.
Oh God.
That is going to be clips for Instagram. For sure.
Sorry, Papa.
So I guess my next one is best carb selection for digestion. Best carb selections, best carbs for healthy digestion.
Whatever you digest the best.
Yeah.
It's such a broad
Everyone's
question. There's some
different.
people who don't digest rice very well and
Yeah,
eat
like,
potatoes
oh.
or sweet, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I would also think about, let's say your digestion is good, right? You're a normal person, you don't have a lot of sensitivities or whatever. I would think about the source at that time of day, right? And more specifically, peri-workout, right? Like I want to go eat oats and a bunch of peanut butter and a shit ton of steak right before I go train, right? Because that's gonna be pretty slow digestion. It's gonna be sitting in my gut. I'm gonna want something that's gonna clear the gut relatively quickly. But I do also like to have a fat source in there to kind of help sustain a little bit while I'm training. And the same thing goes for post workout. I'm not going to want a super slow digesting carb source or whatever, because I want it to hit relatively quickly since I just depleted myself while I was training, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing that I think I've been big on here recently, and that I think we miss out on a lot within bodybuilding because we are so focused on, the carbohydrates going to be more effective at replenishing glycogen and, those starchier carbohydrates. Fruit. I think fruit is massively underrated, especially large quantities of fruit. They can be very effective in multiple different ways. And most typically, we're going to see not only really easy digestion of fruit, but we could also use fruit in multiple different ways to be able to improve overall digestion, whether that's the general fiber that we're getting from those fruits and being able to improve going to the bathroom, the prebiotic fibers that we get from those fruits to be able to replenish the gut as far as our microbiota is concerned. Again, the polyphenols, the antioxidants are going to be, there's so much more value there when it comes to a gram of carbohydrate that you're getting from fruit versus a gram of carbohydrate that you're getting from white rice, let's say, white rice is really a fuel source. You know what I mean? It yields a lot of those macronutrients that we're looking for as far as carbohydrate is concerned, but it's not going to give you a ton of the micronutrient density, right? Whereas the fruit is going to be the exact opposite. It's going to give you that carbohydrate source, but it's also giving you a ton of overall benefit there as well.
Dude, fruit is like a diet hack, dude. It tastes so fucking good.
Yeah, and you can get that's the other thing is it's super easy to eat. You know
What's
what I
your
mean? Like
favorite
when it
fruit?
comes. Honestly, I don't
I
even know
think
if
we
I have a
tried to do
favorite one
this
at
last
point.
week and I couldn't answer.
Oh, we're gonna do it again. What's your favorite?
Tim
fruit,
said
man?
pineapple.
Yep.
Yeah, I love pineapple's fucking delicious. That's true. That is my
Pineapple.
favorite.
Kiwi.
Kiwi's banging.
Kiwi's
Another underrated
Together,
one,
though?
mangoes.
Mangoes are delicious. too.
Mango.
Mangoes are totally
Mm.
underrated.
Tim, you know what we should do?
I like blueberries.
We should
Yeah,
collaborate and we should make a frozen bag of fruit of mango, pineapple, and kiwi.
Mango, pineapple. That would probably be fucking delicious.
It would
Though,
be
huh?
so good.
That would be a banger. Yeah,
I'd
it would.
eat the whole bag.
Tropical.
Yeah, easily.
I'd eat the whole bag, probably.
Yeah, right. Fruit. Steve and I, though, if we came out with a tropical fruit mix, nobody would ever buy it from us. We're the two least looking tropical motherfuckers on the face of the earth.
This doesn't look tropical.
Absolutely not. We'd have to use Marina as like the face of the product.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
would.
true.
I would.
Yeah, I
We'll
look
be
like
silent
I look
investors.
like I've been in a cave. My sweatshirt's fucking ripped.
100%.
I got cups
You're
on my
fucking
knees. I got cups on my
Neanderthal.
knees right now.
Yeah. You actually, none of the three of us are passing as tropical in any way.
Who would pass tropical first, though, between us three guys?
I don't know, man.
Tropical?
We're all
Matt, do you
pretty
get,
light.
I
you
don't
get able to
know.
get tan in the summer, Matt?
I get pretty tan, yeah.
It would
Oh,
have to
dude,
be
so
me,
yeah.
though, because I'm
Why would it have to be you?
because I'm Greek and Italian. I'm straight Mediterranean. It would have to be me.
That's not tropical though. Tropical, I'm thinking like
Yeah, but it's
Hawaii
more
or-
tropical than like I don't know other things. Not even tropical.
If we painted Steve Brown, okay, and then we put him in what are those skirts that they wear in Hawaii?
Luau.
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 Yeah, we put him in a luau and we fucking make him shake it a little bit. Maybe he'd pass. We'll have him sing songs from that rock movie from Disney. What's that
Moana.
called?
Moana.
Yeah, Moana. We'll have him sing the songs from Moana. And
Moana.
maybe he'd pass as
You'd
tropical,
you'd
but
love to
otherwise,
see me dressed like that, shaking it, wouldn't you, Tim?
absolutely.
That movie actually has like the
Flip-flops.
best songs ever.
They do have some good
It
songs.
really is
They're
fucking.
good.
It's good.
And I'm starting to know him now because Nina puts Disney Plus on now for Vienna nonstop. And it's just like we've gone from at least we've gotten rid of like Miss Rachel 98% of the time. Now it's like Bluey, which I like Bluey. It's a great cartoon. And now it's just Disney movies.
I could do the Disney stuff for the most part. I can't do the YouTube stuff, man. The
Yeah,
YouTube
it
stuff drives me
sucks.
nuts.
Dude, it's the worst shit.
It is.
It's hard. It's tough.
It is.
All right.
How many more you got, Tim?
I got two more.
Matt?
Me too.
All right.
Okay, so one is bodybuilding related, one I guess could be, but not really. Which one do we want to go with?
So non-bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Non-bodybuilding. Okay, biggest achievement in life.
Ah,
A deep
fuck.
one. That's a deep one.
My daughter.
Graduating with my mechanical engineering degree without hurting myself in 4 years.
That's
No.
debatable, hurting yourself.
True.
I feel we got a little hurt there at one point, but
We're definitely
we made it
hurt.
out. We made it out.
My daughter.
Yeah, I guess it's got to be the kids, right?
There's just like no.
I think. What do you
Yeah.
got, Matt? Because before I say we'd be bad parents if we chose something else, do you? Something else?
No. I mean, it plays into being a parent, but just more so like my family, right? Like I'm proud that I've been able to, fortunate enough to provide for my family without my wife having to work.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, I would say my daughter, right? My unborn child on the way. Also too, like when we bought our house, like every time Nina paid the bills, we had like negative $28.14 in our account. And just like making it through tough shit like that, and like when we lost our home and stuff, like you know,
Yeah.
shit like that, like, you know, is really shapes you. You know what I mean? It made me grow up fucking quick.
100%.
Fucking quick. Like we had no choice,
Yeah.
So
Having
Let's-
having a kid go ahead, Matt. I mean, Steve, I didn't mean to.
no, you're good. I would just say like going through tough shit like that and realizing like how quick life can really change. Like, we woke up that one day with like a house for 6 months and like, we were broke as shit. And then like 12 hours later, we had 3 trees through our roof, thanking God that me, Nina, and my dad were still alive. And like no trees fucking just crushed us, right? Because like
Mhm.
no matter how fucking much muscle or tough
Yeah,
you
it's
are at that
crazy.
point, like you're not stopping a fucking tree, like crushing you. So and just like how quick everything changed, and then like being able to like make it through that, you know what I mean? It definitely makes you grow up quick. So I'd say like going through those tough things, like definitely is an achievement. I would say,
huge.
yeah.
Yeah,
it's
I think
huge.
not to get too deep, but Sam just brought it up for Matt. And I know Matt and I have had this conversation privately, but it's and I guess that's another big one too, is like not only having the kids, but not having severely fucked my kids up. You know what I mean? Especially with one of them being 17 years old now. Like I know we're in a pretty good spot, at the least at this point
Yeah.
in life. And I come from a similar background to Matt, where like I know both of us, we didn't really have that support. So even I was a very young father at the age of 21, and I didn't have the parents or the family members to be able to rely on as far as like, maybe if I'm a little low on rent, like is there somebody there to help me out? I never had any support like that. I had to pay my way and my kid's mother's way and my kid's way the entire way through. No matter how bad shit got, it's like, like Matt said, it's basically like it's essentially at least our job as far as relationships are concerned.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that's the shit that has to kind of get done. And not having any support through that definitely is hard, but at the same time, it's something that you can come out of it and say, we've made it to this point now where things are a little bit more comfortable. And again, I guess that's perseverance. I don't know what exactly I'm proud of within that, but definitely proud of it as far as a whole.
Shows, I think too, like I mean, like you said, like Matt and I have had so many obviously private conversations, being as close as we are at this point. But like it says something too about like, both too, like with Tim now, knowing what I know, like character, both your characters, you know what I mean, as individuals, like because it's so easy, right, to like if you don't have that father figure, like to just like be like, fuck this, like, and just like carry that on. But like to actually be the dads that both of you are, like I said, like I'm not trying to get too deep, but it's just like, the writing's on the wall with it. It's, like that's a huge accomplishment. At least I think so,
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's like anything. You could go down one of two paths, right? You could follow the path to the abyss, as I call
Yep.
it, where you could run in the other direction. Unfortunately, for guys like Tim and I, we ran in the other direction.
And it's also too, right? Like we're all like fucking mature individuals here, right? Like if you run into the abyss, like you say, right, a lot to me, Matt, like what the fuck does that get you? It just honestly, it probably just makes life fucking miserable and harder.
Mhm.
And like
I don't know about harder. It might even be easier if if you go into the abyss. You know what I mean? Your expectations are low of yourself. Seriously, your
Yeah.
expectations are low of yourself.
yeah,
You
but
don't have people relying on
imagine
you.
when you finally wake the fuck up, Tim, one day and you like have to crawl out of
Oh,
that
yeah.
fucking hole. You might as well, you
100%.
know what I mean? Then you're like,
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
fuck do I go?
Yeah, I'm not saying the quality of life is high. I'm just
No,
saying at
no.
the end of the day, yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is not to again keep going here, but for Marina, I think the one thing, Marina, that you leave out there is like, I find it impressive that you went from, college was something that you were kind of supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
feel like, especially with your family and the background you have, like you were going to go to college. Most, I think that's a fairly normal thing, right? Not necessarily 100% across the board, but normal at your age to go to school. You got a good degree. You accepted a position in that field. You were making really good money at a really young age. And now you've decided to go into a completely and totally different
Yeah,
realm. You went
pivot.
backwards, essentially.
Yeah.
You moved out, but then you moved back home to be able to secure the lifestyle that you have now. And now you're building yourself up to be a very fucking well-rounded fucking young coach that I'm
Yeah,
very
that's
proud of.
that's a good point too, that like, yeah, I didn't just, keep climbing the corporate ladder and doing what everyone does. And what is it called? The rat race. I didn't enter the rat race. I didn't buy into any of that. So it is a something I hold like really near and dear to my heart, is that I was able to, of course I talked to my parents, I talked to a bunch of my friends, but like it truly was my decision one day to walk in and be like, I'm done. So it was like I'm very proud of it for sure. And it's kind of like my own journey. It isn't something that is kind of set up for me, that I
You
kind of
took
just
the
keep
risk.
doing.
You took the risk.
Took the risk.
So,
Yep.
and the reason I say that is right. So when I went and I wanted to start getting into coaching, right? And I told my dad, I was like, listen, I don't know if like I should quit the school I work at. Like it's a steady paycheck every 2 weeks, right? It's not like anything that is allowing me to save me and Nina save fucking money, right? But like Nina's gonna be done college in a year, she's gonna make a decent salary being a teacher and all this. Like maybe I could just, coach what I have now, 30, 40 clients and still have that paycheck and just not take over, the 38 clients I had at the time. My dad's like, take the risk. That's all he said. And like, you know, thank God I listened, because a lot of, and I just always remember that. So like Marina, that just when you were saying what you were saying, like you took the risk,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? I'm like, you don't know until you take the risk, right? No risk.
Yeah.
Like it's a very
Mhm.
true statement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you didn't take that risk, we wouldn't really be friends because I would have called you. It was right around the time you were going to make the decision. I remember. I think you were just leaving the school or something.
Yeah.
Imagine I called you and you're like, ah, fuck you, I'm full.
Sorry, dude.
I'd
But
be working with Tim.
the big thing was for me it was because that was in May, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll put my 2 weeks in. And my dad was like, no, you finish the school year out. Like you have to suck it up for another 6 weeks. Those people, those kids, the principal, they depend on you. Like you don't leave. So, it's like I was like, all right, yeah, no, that's the right thing. I wasn't thinking, right? But again, it's just different various scenarios that are so small snippets that add up. I feel like
Yeah,
in the
compound,
long
yeah.
run and compound over time that like your mind races to like, how did I get to where I am now? You know what I mean? I'm like little 2 minute conversations, like my dad telling me, take the risk. And then like, no, you're going to finish out the school year. Like you don't do that to people. Like you finish your commitment, like shit like that adds up. And it definitely is like character building, things like that, that really go with you far in life, I feel,
For sure.
you know?
All right. So you got another one, Steve, you want to throw out there?
Yeah, so this one I have was what are 3 pieces of advice you would give a new lifter to help them the first 5 years of their journey?
Advice that you would give. Wait, what was the question though? Advice that you would give to a new
3 pieces
lifter?
of advice you would give a new lifter to help them the first 5 years of their journey.
5 years, that's too many years to give
Yeah.
3 pieces of
Let's
advice.
do like 2 years.
Okay.
All right, research would be number one.
Patience.
Patience
Research and
and
patience.
focus on form and feeling the muscle.
Oh, as a specifically within lifting. Yeah, I would honestly, I think patience would be my number one thing.
Yep.
And I would say patience, but focus on growing more than you focus on the way that you actually look right now.
Yep.
So many people get into lifting because they want to be, whatever, shredded cunts right away. And it's like, dude, don't like you're gonna be a shredded cunt right away. You're probably going to be forcing yourself down a direction where you're not optimally growing at all. Right. And growth is the hardest thing that we do. It's also the easiest when you are that new to it. Like focus on growth and stay within that growth phase for as long as possibly bearable, and really make that your primary concern. Because as we all know, I think anybody's limiting factor at this point is like how much tissue can we actually put on? You know what I mean? Take advantage of that when you're new. Have the patience to stay within that and focus the first couple of years of your journey solely on growth. Whether you're a female, male, bring up the muscle tissue first, and you can always get shredded at any point.
If you're fat getting into lifting, don't worry about growing all that much stuff.
Yeah, well, maybe growing muscle, not growing your circumference anymore.
Just worry about eating
Circumference.
cheesesteaks. All right.
Yeah,
Don't
don't feed into his bullshit.
Don't shake your head at me. I haven't had a cheesesteak in a while.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
right. You mean last week?
I'm gonna do
It's been over a week.
Katie's question now. I don't know if she's coming in, but this is a pretty good one. If someone comes to you, woman and or men, with high cholesterol, where do you start?
Shake their diet.
Nutrition.
Nutrition. What's their diet? Right?
Lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah. Change good habits, better sleep, more water, more electrolytes, their nutrition. What are they eating?
Especially if they're not a competitor. I think the
Yeah.
number one thing with cholesterol or even when you're looking at a metabolic panel in general and some of the things that might be off for somebody, it's like you can literally fix that and it could be legitimately this simple, and including losing weight. Stick to, honestly, as simplistic as it sounds, whole food, single ingredient foods more times than not, right? And focus on putting effort into your food and less convenience around your food. And you will legitimately improve that cholesterol. You will legitimately drop weight. You will legitimately feel better. You'll legitimately look better. All these things will happen from just that simple concept, regardless of the
Legitimately.
calories you are or aren't eating. It's just all of those things are going to improve. And that could be a really solid base foundation to take things up from there.
You don't say, Tim. God
My
forbid you
stop.
tell someone to eat protein and fruit.
Pro.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Honestly, if you think about that logically for a second, it's like, how much of a job would we all really have if people just use that base level logic? It's like everybody would be in so much better shape. It's like, stop fucking looking for convenience with all your food, period. Plain, sweet, and simple. Done. Stop. Learn how to cook, prepare yourself food at every meal. And I guarantee you, if you just do those two, forget even what is
Yeah,
a single
forget
ingredient
weighing
food,
it.
what is a whole food? Yeah, forget all that. Forget weighing
Mhm.
it, forget calories. Just put more effort into the food that you're consuming and prepare it yourself. And I guarantee you that in and of itself is going to lead to positive outcomes.
This is true.
All right.
So, all right. So I think this is best cutting cycle recommendations for a noob. So it's their first cycle and they want to know cutting cycle recommendations.
Like drugs?
Yeah.
Afraid,
Masteron.
like I'm afraid, like who would give this advice?
Yeah, that's why I'm
His
like,
first cycle. He's like a
They're actually,
17-year-old kid.
no, he's actually, I don't know how old he is, but he's actually in pretty good shape right now.
I would say Masteron.
Actually, I would say he's in pretty impressive shape right now.
Yeah. I mean, your test base, right?
Yeah.
Masteron.
I would say if you're cutting just a cut, I wouldn't worry so much about the compounds. I'd worry about putting in the work
Well, that's
because you could get pretty fucking lean on nothing, on zero drugs.
Jeez. Now,
Mhm.
I'm just trying to answer the question, and now I've just looked like a drug abuser. Super
No,
drug
I think
sustenance.
Matt's,
Yeah,
I
so
think,
yeah,
Yeah.
I think Matt's
Yeah.
making a good point though. Like
Yeah.
you don't need androgens to get lean. Like you just
Yeah.
No,
don't.
you don't.
Like,
No.
That's why I was like, what?
you'll look better on androgens really, but I would say honestly for a first cycle, use it when you're trying to grow. Like if you want to do like a small test base, like Steve was saying, and maybe even sprinkle in some Masteron or something like that to really like, culminate to build that look, for sure, whatever, go with it. But at the end of the day, what I would say is save that first exposure for when you're trying to build,
Yeah.
and those drugs are actually going to be efficacious in terms of what they're good for, which is synthesizing new tissue.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also too, like if he's in good shape and he's able to refeed frequent too, like he might even get like a good, growth effect a little bit if if he's in that great a shape genetically or naturally, and he might be able to actually grow a bit, especially if it's his first cycle, depending if he's how he's strategically feeding
Yeah.
himself as well. But I do agree, if it's his first cycle, I'd save it for when like the food's going high and he's able to really capitalize on that recovery window and the added benefit and such of it. But if he really wants to do something, I would say a 200 test and a little bit of Masteron will probably go a long fucking way for him. Yeah, and
Definitely.
it's gonna eliminate an AI usage too, just with the Masteron. So he's not even gonna have to worry about fucking his lipids on and such. So
Yep. Bada bing. Steve, I mean,
Bada
Matt,
bing,
you got
bada
another one,
boom.
right?
Yeah, I got one more. Who's
Tip,
one you look up to in bodybuilding?
Steve.
stop
Easy.
that. Stop that.
Oh, so I had this question, so I was able to think about it a little bit. And like, of course, I look up to plenty of guys from like a physique perspective, right? To me, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about life achievements, right? In bodybuilding, there's more than just like a physique, right?
Yep.
And it is, I hate to say it, it is an industry with a lot of people that are just losers, right? They dedicate their life to it. They make no money. They live in their basement apartments into their mid 30s, 40s. And look, if you're happy doing that, like more power to like, but
Mm-hmm.
to
Yep.
me, like it's not impressive. When I think about people that I look up to, I would think about in the circuit today, I would think about guys like Brett Wilkin, right? Because not only from a physique perspective is he a winning open pro, he's an insane physique. He's grown like crazy from class 6 to 212 to, and he's won pro shows, but he's got a family, right? So it's a lot harder to bodybuild when you have children. and he also is an entrepreneur, right? Like he's got his whole butcher hook business, and I'm sure he's got other shit with that now because it's been a couple of years. But I can imagine. So I look up to him from that perspective, and I can imagine him as one of the guys when we look today that were really active pros but never Mr. Olympias, like the Lee Labradas, like the Rich Gasparis, like these guys are legends and they have these successful businesses today because they started building the foundation when they were active competitors and popular, right? And I see Brett doing that as well. I guarantee in 20 years from now, Brett, 30 years from now, Brett's going to be one of the guys that has all these big bodybuilding and fitness and supplement brands, right? One of those names that everybody talks about. So.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it's the same as what you said, Matt. Right? Like where are you like aligning yourself outside of just the look on the physique? Like big on family, right? Like how are you as an individual, right? Do people respect you?
Yeah.
Do you have an ego? Are you like kind of like a dick to be? You know what I mean? Like I like just humble, non-egotistical, family-oriented individuals. So like Flex Lewis too. He's probably somebody I would say like the dude's had a daughter. His daughter was a baby when he was winning, like in the peak of winning Olympias, right? He had a gym,
Here, eat one now.
businesses. He was like traveling during the Olympia preps, right? He lost to
Eat one.
Dallas McCarver, who was a really good friend of his in the middle of fucking winning a fourth or fifth Olympia. So like seeing people that like again that are like family
No, one more.
oriented
Come on.
individuals
One
who
turn.
make the
Yeah.
time for
Give
the
me a
family
great
but still are
approach.
able
Take
to
your time.
succeed in that. Even and from the business aspect, like you said, setting the foundation. And I think, anybody who does that
Relax.
in the realm of what we're talking with
Right,
competing,
relax.
I would say I look up to.
Yeah, for me, honestly, if I had to pick two people that I really looked up to for a long time, it'd be Matt Porter was one early on
Yeah.
for me. That he was a guy that was like, even way back in the day when I started talking to him, we were on the boards. And he was popular, like he was, an admin on some boards, and he was a sponsored athlete. He was the first guy that I ever, and this is, legitimately fucking, I don't know, 12 years ago, 14 years ago, 15 years ago, where he was sponsored by Quest bars back when Quest bars were completely and totally garbage and like nowhere near what they are today. They tasted like cardboard. But like he was a big guy on the boards there for a little while, but he was very, very receptive, very, very like, we had multiple conversations over and over and over again. And then that bled over to, bigger social media accounts when IG came around and stuff. I was still able to kind of keep in contact with him. He would answer DMs and stuff like that. And then eventually even I had his email address and he would email with me and stuff like that. And it was one of those things where it's like, for what? Like I wasn't he never coached me. He never charged me for any of this stuff. But he would be there to like, answer any questions that I had. And it was something where initially, that was a big deal for me because again, he was kind of like, but then it was something where he started to put out a lot of this content on YouTube and stuff like that. And he was one of those guys that was very like experimental. You know what I mean? Whether it was, him kind of leaving bodybuilding behind at first when his dad passed because of this hereditary issue that took his dad. And then he started to get scared. So he had to like, kind of reinvent himself as a bodybuilder. And he took years off of competing, went straight to like TRT and only used HRT that his doctor would prescribe. So testosterone replacement therapy, growth hormone replacement therapy. And he did a lot of experimental shit that's still on YouTube today. But he did a lot of that stuff. And then like, even really low dosage compounds. So like he was the guy that would do like 15 milligrams of Trenace or like a very low dosage of Primobolan or something like that. And you could legitimately watch his entire process. And outside of drugs, it was diet was a thing where, again, this is early on in the boards. I remember when I did a diet for somebody in 2012, I was training at Menlo Park Mall. Had a Workout World in there. It's now Jersey Strong. And I remember putting together a diet for a couple people, right? And I would use things like, whatever, Honey Nut Cheerios is an easy option to get carbs in. Lucky Charms was an easy option to get carbs in for a couple guys I had that were really hard gainers, right? And I remember there was other people there that were coaches that would legitimately laugh at that, right? I picked that up from Matt Porter. Matt Porter was the guy that I kind of got that from, and I talked to him about it and the whole concept behind it in terms of refeeding and all that different stuff. He was one of the ones that was kind of early on those types of like easy ways of getting the job done. And again, he was just a big influence for me, I think. And I had a lot of respect from him as a, husband and the way he was a husband, eventually became a father, a business owner, all of those things that you guys had mentioned. But I think he did a lot of that and garnered a lot of the respect that he had as a coach by being the person that he was, right? As an individual, and then ultimately as the kind of experimenter that he was with a lot of the different things that he tried to do. You know what I mean? So to me, he was kind of on that cutting edge there originally. And then the other person, you know, Marina knows all too well because I made her do a long mentorship with him, is Austin Stout. Who's somebody that I kind of look up to from the way that he does his business as a whole, right? He's a great bodybuilder. And you look at, he might not be a professional and neither was Matt, but if you look at their progress within their physique, it's been absolutely astounding. And it's something where it's like you watch guys like that, especially Austin, put in the hard work. He grinds his ass off when it comes to his training. He's the guy that'll show you how to eat 1,300 grams of carbs a day because he does it. Like right there, you get to see it. Like you get to see what his diet looks like, all this different stuff. So it's cool to watch somebody have to push the envelope like that, but also do it in the most efficacious way possible. Where now he's talking about, you know, how he cleans up his gut and goes about all these functional strategies within his own bodybuilding career. So he's also intelligent as it gets. He mentors with some of the best as far as Dr. Serrano is concerned. So it's like seeing a guy like that where he cares so much about his craft and cares so much about the way that he helps people. You know, for him, it is his way of life. You know what I mean? Like he's not just a guy that coaches for money. He is a coach to the true extent of it. He is a bodybuilder to the true extent of it. He doesn't do it for glory. He doesn't do it for money. He doesn't do it for likes or anything like that. He does his shit the way that he does his shit. It might not be this good production on social media and Instagram to where he gets these cool reels and shit like that out of it. He just posts it the way that he does it. And it's something where, I don't know, I have a lot of respect for the way that he goes about things because it's not all glitz and glamour. He does it in a very like, you know, definitive way to be able to get the result in a way that he kind of enjoys doing it and represents him the best.
Right. Yeah, John Meadows was a big one too.
Yeah, John was another one who answered all my shit. Like I still have DMs in our thing for now, you know, where it's like he would answer all. I worked with a nutrition company right at the time, a meal prep service where we came out with our own supplement store. And when we dropped our own supplement store here in Freehold, he was one of the first people to get back to me, and he had just came out with Granite supplements. Right, we were the first store on the East Coast to carry Granite supplements. Right. And it was only because I had that level of communication with John Meadows, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. You have any more?
Yeah, I got the last one I got here is supplements to help relax both at the end of the day and during the day.
Ashwagandha. I would say. Magnesium too at the end of the day for sure.
See, I'm actually opposite. I like magnesium threonate earlier in the day. I like them both at the end of the day and earlier, but magnesium threonate is one of the ones I would go with during the day because it's a little bit less of a sedative effect. Right. Ashwagandha too, a little bit less of a sedative effect. And then at night, I would take things that maybe have a little bit more of a sedative effect.
Yeah.
Marijuana.
Yeah, marijuana is another one, even though it doesn't really work too well for sleep improvements. But it's definitely something that'll help calm down those racing thoughts, which is exactly what I use it for.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna pee my pants, guys. I'm gonna go.
Are we done?
Yeah.
I am done. You guys are so. All right, guys.
Later, Gator.
Bye. Should I do a outro or do you
Yeah.
guys have any other questions?
No, I didn't.
I'm good. That's all my questions.
All good?
Mhm.
All right. Thank you everyone for listening and we'll catch you guys next week. Make sure you get your questions in.